Good morning and welcome to TipRanks News Bites. I'm Ari Gutman. Today is Monday, July 18th, and these are our top news bites. Recession fears remain front and center with investors keeping their eyes on a loaded economic calendar for the week ahead. President Joe Biden pleads with Saudi Arabia's Prince Mohammed in an attempt to alleviate gas prices back at home. And finally, China's economy is on the brink of collapse. Now, be sure to stick with me through the end of today's segment as we just received groundbreaking TipRankers insider news of a CEO who recently purchased $12.5 million worth of shares in his company. It is news you will not want to miss out on. After the news last week of June's red-hot consumer price index reading in which inflation popped to an unexpected 9.1%, the market responded in kind with panic, but by the week's end, investors' fears were quelled by a rather strong retail sales report, as well as the Federal Reserve's remarks on their continued commitment to proceed cautiously, yet with a lot of ambition to tame inflation by raising interest rates by what will likely be 75 basis points just later on this month. Now, major indexes did see a relief rally just before the markets closed on Friday. It certainly was not enough to spark a winning week. The Dow shed 0.16%, the S&P lost a little less than 1% at 0.93%, the Nasdaq by 1.57%. As for where we stand heading into this week, both economists and investors are going to be parsing through the Housing Market Index report from the National Association of Home Builders. And of course, we're rolling right into another week of earnings, with this week roughly 70 firms scheduled to report. Now, most notably for today, we have Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, and IBM all ready to report their earnings. So be sure to utilize our TipRanks tools on the platform to do all your due diligence on these companies to make the wisest possible investment decisions. And while prices at the pump have become damaging to both American wallets and President Joe Biden's political record, President Biden recently boarded Air Force One to pay a special visit to the royal palace of Prince Mohammed of Saudi Arabia. The visit itself was supposed to help soothe relations between the two leaders, with discussions on an array of topics. Of course, with the OPEC agreement expiring in September, Biden was making his case in Pleas for an increase in Saudi oil production, which ultimately would help alleviate high gas prices within the United States. But following the meeting, the administration downplayed expectations for an immediate increase, and Biden shared you won't see that relief for another couple of weeks. Now, overall, Biden's 3 hours within the royal palace was widely seen as a win for Prince Mohammed and drew more criticism Biden's way, with many on both sides of the political spectrum only seeing his visit to Saudi Arabia as backtracking on campaign promises. However, only time will tell if this trip will actually yield any positive economic results. On our global news front, economists and investors have their eyes on the world's second largest economy as China's economy expanded by just 0.4%. Now, this has been the slowest pace of growth for China since the start of COVID-19 back in 2020, and it's illustrating just how economically damaging their zero COVID policy has been on the country. Lockdowns are still in place as a new variant sweeps its way through multiple major cities and regions. The news of China's slowed growth, along with the ongoing war in Ukraine, disrupted supply chains, and rising interest rates only tarnish positive economic sentiment and give way to added fears that the world could slip right into a global recession. And finally, as for our breaking TipRanks insider news, how Peter Liu, the CEO of Sonam Technologies, just purchased over 952,000 shares worth of the company, equating to roughly $12.5 million, and prompted a 27% pop in share price on Friday before it stabilized around 68 cents per share. Now, if this mobile phone solutions company is of interest to you, be sure to jump right onto TipRanks to perform your own due diligence on the company before making any finalized investment decisions. But surely this news was one for the books. TipRankers, that's our news for you today. Let us know your expectations for the week ahead in terms of earnings, the earnings you're most excited for, and whether or not you think Sonam Technologies is an actual buy. Now, as always, be sure to stay up to date, informed, and always connected by simply joining us right here on TipRanks TV, all the shows you just cannot afford to miss. And until next time, thank you for tuning in.